Wellness Rhythm Show. Find your rhythm. Live your wellness.
Y'all, quick question. How many of you have a stretching routine that consists entirely of touching your toes before a workout and calling it done? Because, same.
Right, and here's what's interesting. A 2022 review published in the Journal of Sport and Health Science found that less than 10% of adults in Western countries meet basic mobility benchmarks for their age group. 10%.
That is a shockingly small number, and honestly, I feel called out. I've been doing the same yoga routine for 2 years, and I genuinely assumed that counted for something.
It might, or it might not be doing quite what you think it is. And that distinction, it turns out, matters enormously. Today, we're getting into flexibility and mobility, what the research actually says, why they're not the same thing, and whether your stretching routine is actually moving the needle.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning, because I think most people use flexibility and mobility interchangeably. I definitely have.
Right, and that's the first thing worth untangling. Flexibility is the passive range of motion a muscle can achieve, essentially how far it can lengthen. Mobility is your active ability to control movement through that range.
So flexibility is like the potential, and mobility is whether you can actually use it?
Exactly, you could be flexible and have poor mobility. Think of it as owning a sports car but not knowing how to drive it.
That analogy is very you, David.
I try, but the distinction matters practically. Researchers like Dr. Andrea Ospina, who developed the functional range conditioning system, have made this their entire framework. Passive stretching increases range. Mobility work trains the nervous system to own that range.
And here's the thing, though. Most of what people do when they say they stretch is almost entirely passive. You hold a hamstring stretch for 30 seconds and feel virtuous.
Which isn't worthless, but there's a lot of nuance in the research around static stretching specifically.
Break that down for me.
So static stretching, the hold and wait kind, has genuinely mixed evidence behind it. A meta-analysis from 2021 in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found it does increase flexibility over time, particularly when held for 60 seconds or more per muscle group. But it showed minimal impact on injury prevention as a standalone habit.
Wait, minimal impact on injury prevention? That's basically the only reason half the people I know stretch.
I know, and this is where the science gets a bit uncomfortable. The injury prevention case for static stretching alone is much weaker than the cultural story we've inherited from gym class.
So what does reduce injury risk?
Dynamic warm-up, controlled articular rotations, strength through full range of motion. The evidence there is considerably more robust.
Okay, so before we make everyone feel terrible about their foam roller, is there anything static stretching reliably does?
Yes, genuinely. Consistent static stretching improves range of motion over time, reduces perceived muscle stiffness, and some studies, including work from the University of Queensland, suggest meaningful effects on stress and parasympathetic nervous system activation.
The stress piece is real. I notice it. Even my mediocre yoga routine genuinely calms me down, whether or not I'm progressing.
And that's not nothing, that's actually significant. But it does raise the question of whether yoga is functioning as mobility training or as a nervous system regulation tool. Because for many people, it's primarily the latter.
And maybe that's fine. Like, do we need to optimize everything?
I'd push back gently there. If someone is using yoga as their only movement practice and expecting it to carry their physical capability into their 60s and 70s, that's where the research gets concerning.
Okay, fair. And honestly, I've said on this show before, I've started and abandoned strength training about 4 times, so I'm not immune to this trap.
None of us are. But here's what I find encouraging in the literature. The threshold for meaningful mobility improvement is actually quite low. Research from the American College of Sports Medicine suggests 10 to 30 minutes of targeted mobility work 3 times a week produces measurable results within 8 weeks.
8 weeks. That is genuinely achievable, even for me.
Even for you, Emma.
I deserve that. Now, let's talk about who this really matters for. Because I think there's a tendency to treat flexibility as a young person's pursuit. Gymnastics, dancers, whatever. But our audience skews toward people in their 40s, 50s, 60s.
And this is where it becomes genuinely urgent rather than nice to have. Dr. Stacey Sims and researchers at the National Institute on Aging have documented that loss of mobility, specifically hip mobility, thoracic spine rotation and ankle dorsiflexion, is one of the primary predictors of fall risk and functional decline in older adults.
Ankle dorsiflexion? Say that like a normal person?
Whether your ankle can flex enough to allow a full squat without your heel lifting, it sounds small.
It is enormous in practice.
Exactly, and the loss is insidious. It happens slowly. People adapt their movement patterns unconsciously, shorter strides, less rotation in the torso, and then one day the capacity simply isn't there.
Y'all, if you are in the sandwich generation, managing aging parents and your own health at the same time, this is the conversation. Because the research on fall prevention in adults over 65 is very clear that mobility training is among the highest return interventions available.
And if you're 40 and listening, you're building the foundation now, or not. The time to address this is genuinely before you notice the problem.
Right. Now let's get practical. Because I know someone driving to school pickup is wondering, what does this actually look like on a Tuesday?
Brilliant point. So the research-supported approach is to combine passive and active work. Something like a hip flexor stretch held for 60+ seconds. Passive, paired with controlled hip circles or a deep squat with active holds, that's the active motor control component.
So not just lying there feeling a pull, actually engaging.
Yes, the functional range conditioning work I mentioned earlier, even 5 to 10 minutes of it, is backed by increasingly solid evidence, and its low cost requires no equipment.
I want to also mention yoga here because I don't want listeners to feel like we just threw it under the bus. Because yoga, when taught well, does incorporate active engagement. The problem is the enormous variability in instruction quality and style.
That's a genuinely important nuance. A well-structured vinyasa practice or an Iyengar yoga class, BKS. Iyengar's method specifically has meaningful research support. A passive yin class held at a temperature that makes you sweat is doing something very different.
And both might serve you, but know what you're getting.
Exactly, match the tool to the goal.
Okay, I want to ask you something because I feel like the skeptic in the audience is sitting there thinking, I feel fine. I'm not stiff. Why does this matter?
And that's the most dangerous version of this conversation, because by the time you feel stiff, you've usually already lost significant range. Dr. Kelly Starrett, who wrote Becoming a Supple Leopard, makes this point consistently. Pain is a lagging indicator. The dysfunction precedes the discomfort by months or years.
That is uncomfortable to sit with.
Wellness often is.
And on that cheerful note, actually, this is a great moment to say, if you are finding this useful, please like and subscribe to the Wellness Rhythm Show. We are building something here, and your support genuinely helps us reach more people who need exactly this kind of conversation.
Genuinely appreciated. Right, let's address one more thing before we wrap. The question of progression. Because I think this is where people get stuck. They do the same stretch for 2 years.
I'm right here, David.
And wonder why nothing changes. Flexibility and mobility training require progressive overload, just like strength training. Gradually increasing range, time under tension, complexity of movement.
Which means the same routine I've been doing for 2 years is probably, I'll say it, not doing very much anymore in terms of progress, even if it feels good.
Comfortably honest of you.
It's a gift, so what's the one-sentence version of where to start?
Add 5 minutes of active mobility work, controlled joint circles, deep squat holds with engagement, before your next workout or before bed 3 times this week. That's it.
Y'all, the takeaway here is so simple it almost sounds too small. Flexibility without control is just potential you can't access. 5 to 10 minutes of active work, not just passive holding, 3 times a week. That's the entry point. You don't need a new class or a new app. You need to start deliberately moving the joints you already have.
And if you take nothing else from today, distinguish between what feels good and what's building capacity. Both matter, but know which one you're doing.
That's the whole thing, isn't it? Know what you're actually doing. As always, we are rooting for you, whatever Tuesday you're having.
Even the ones involving school pickups.
Especially those. See y'all next time. This show is part of the VoxCrea.AI system. If you want a show like this for your organization without building it yourself,
go to VoxCrea.AI and request a sample episode.